Welcome back, Founding Champions. Scott here with Founding Champions, and, well, I got more previews for you. So, we did in fact get 8 new cards. They were revealed by Beasts of War. So, without further ado, here we go. First one, we have Beat Back. It is an ability that any faction can use. It has to be used by a warrior. Gain 1 additional action. Move a highlighted unit to another highlighted disengaged warrior champion. I've never seen a more death card with Order and Orc art. I mean, come on. Okay, so the reason why I call this a death card, okay. Now, okay, this is also a huge Order card too. But I'm going to start off with death. I think it's really good with death. It's also a very, very good Order card, and I'll get into that right now. So, Beat Back, Order uses a lot of warriors, and Death uses a lot of wizard warriors. You see a lot of their wizards; they're also warriors, which makes them a little bit better. And I will go through a few examples of why Beat Back is so good. So you're going to replace that action you just used, so you can continue using cards from your hand. So that's pretty nice. Now each card is about 2 actions. Now when you start the game off, you kind of start off with like 4 or 5 free actions because that's your starting hand. But on average, each card is 2 actions. When you have to use an action to draw a card and an action to play that card. So this card is already 50% off. That's pretty nice, 50% off. I'd use that for a lot of things. Gain 1 additional action. Move a highlighted unit to another highlighted disengaged warrior champion. So, if they have a unit in a lane and you need to excuse me. I'm excited. I'm really excited. If you need to move that unit, or if you ever wished, wow, I wish I could have always moved that unit. Well, now you have a card. Move that unit into a lane that is better for you. For example, any lane that where you have damage reduction, you want to move their unit into that lane. If you're playing Order, you're going to want to move a unit in a lane opposite of your Aspect of the Sea. Or you want to move something out of the way of a Big Stabas, or something out of the way of, let's see, what's that Order card that does 4 damage? What is it? The Skybolt Judicator and the Long Strike Raptor. You gotta move dudes out of their way so they can get their bonus damage off. Now, for Death, though, it's really good at moving units in the way of your removal. So, for example, you have that Vampire where his first 2 rotations is Vampire, then removal. Well, a lot of times your opponent won't play something in the lane opposite to that, so you have to sort of move it into that lane and then play your Vargeist, and then it will kill them, or your other spell removal cards. And I think that's why Death will definitely like to use this card, and it gives that additional action back to them, which I think is a little bit better. Is a little bit better in Death. My reasoning for that is that they really want to control the field and sort of manipulate what's going on in the game, but they can't spend resources and time using effects like this. Now, the effects like this are great, but they need something that gives a huge discount to the card, and that's what Beat Back does. So, but this card is very good. It's a rare. I don't think you're going to see too much of this card in Chaos decks, but I think you're going to see it in slight splashes in Destruction. Maybe playing a 1 or 2 of this card, similar to how they play a 1 or 2 of Tactical Formation. I think you'll see this play in Order, because Order is very ability heavy. They want to use a lot of abilities. I think that they will use this card. But Death, I think, is going to utilize this card very, very well. I think it's almost an include. Now, the thing is, I think that it's going to be a huge effect. Like, when Death plays this card, it's going to be huge. It's going to be like a very, very good time that they use this. While Order is going to probably play 3 of these, but every time they play it, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You know, like, okay, they moved your guy. It's upside. but it's not going to be huge of a deal against Order. I mean, with Death is going to use this card, and they're going to see something amazing happen when they play this card. And I don't think they're going to use 3 of these. I think they're going to tone it down, probably to about 2. I think they use about 2. Now, next up is I almost want to say another Death card. It's not Death though. It's any faction can use this. That's unaligned. Grim Portents, ability Wizard. Draw 1 card. Look at 2 highlighted unrevealed blessings. You may swap their positions. We already see a lot of current competitive decks not play Wizards. It's just, I mean, Gordrak getting that +2. So, you know, you don't want to get hosed by Gordrak, so a lot of people aren't playing Wizards. Death is the only one that has a Tier 1 deck playing Wizards. That's the sort of Immortal Death deck. And I do have a video post. I think I call it Death No Die or something like that. Because back in the day, I didn't have a way to name these decks. So, you know, look at that deck list. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of it. It's the one with the 2 champions that if you're at 5 or less life, you gain a life. And they just keep gaining more life. And it's hard to kill them. It's called Immortal Death. But just look at the art. It looks like a Death card, right? So I don't know. It's just like when you see, what is it? What's the name of that ability that does 2 damage, but then +3 damage if they have no units in play? You know, in Tactical Formation, it has all these, you know, Order, you know, art, but then other factions use it. This is this sort of Death-looking art. I'd have to research what actual faction that art comes from. That could actually be a Chaos art, and that can be even a Lizardman art, believe it or not. Just looking at the sort of fan above the head. So, look at the 2 highlight reveal blessings. The way I would like to play this in Death is, you know those blessings that flip over and it says your guy gets +2 to ability damage? You know, things like that. Things that buff a certain lane is what I want. And having... lining up a champion with a blessing. Sometimes a blessing with a certain champion is much stronger than that blessing just being anywhere. And that's where this card is going to shine. And you do see that in Death. So that's where I want to, you know, start off with trying to, you know, test this card out. And it does make, you know, Wizards a little bit better. But there's only a few blessings that pair up with champions well. And that's one of the biggest ones that I think of is the one that straight up gives +2 to ability damage. And it also has a heroic deck where you can move your champions around and gain an additional action back. So I think Grim Portents is going to see a little bit of play. I mean, it is a rare, so it's on discount again. So draw a card. Draw a card's not as good as gaining additional action, or maybe it's better. I'm trying to see which one's better. They both do almost the same thing. An additional action does give you an ability to continue playing other cards in case you have too many cards in your hand versus just drawing more cards. But you get to draw that right away and then potentially use that card you just drew with your second action. So it just depends. Well, I think I've gone 8 minutes on 2 cards, so I'll continue moving along. We have 6 more cards to go. But before I move too far, beat back Grim Portents, competitive. Beat back competitive. Terms of flavor, I'm going to give average ratings on flavor on these cards. Pretty average. Yeah. Next up is Gibbering Horror. Not too much to say about this. It is a demon, so that's nice. It looks like a pink horror demon, or something along the lines. But it's not blue, so it's not a blue horror, and it's not yellow. So I think it's a pink horror. XX 2 and 2. This 2 does damage and shuffle up the chaos spells back in your discard from your discard pile back into your deck. It's a common. Not much to say about this. Next up, Death for Death. Remove a highlighted. I can't say any words right now. I think it's because I'm hungry. Remove a highlighted allied spell or unit to remove a highlighted enemy spell or unit. This card's insane. It's insane. I mean, you're playing this in a faction. It's ability any, so your wizards, warriors, they all can use it. You kill anything in those 3 lanes, and then you kill whatever's in that red lane there. So it's really, really good in my honest opinion. You have a lot of last stand effects in your deck. Even if you're playing more of a turbo deck and you don't have that many last stands, you still have some last stands. And then a lot of cards that are on their last rotation where they're just kind of chilling. You get to move it out of the way to play something else. It's good on many levels. So again, you can move a used up unit out of the way to continue playing more units there, which is really good, while killing an opponent. It activates last stand, and I've seen that a lot with Chaos. Chaos has a lot of effects on a lot of their cards, and they kind of do these things, and they have a huge synergistic chain, a big web of synergy, and I think it's going to show through in this set a lot more synergy versus just playing turbo. Okay, next up, Soul Collection. Ability any, its order. Shuffle up to 1 elf unit from your discard pile into your deck. Increase this by 1 for each highlighted elf unit. So if you had 4 elves in play, you can shuffle up to 5 elves back into your deck. This will never see play. It's an uncommon, which is great. So I'm not gonna open up too many of these, but it's I'm so glad it's not a rare. But I don't know. Am I supposed to use this card? I mean, the Stormcast version of this card sees no play at all. So I don't understand. Maybe when people are trying to mill each other, then you can board this in. So this could be a sideboard card to try and counteract those Immortal Death decks if those become too popular. But besides that, it's a sideboard card that will see very little play, and even on the sideboard, you probably won't see 3 of these. It's oh my god, whatever. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see too much play. It speaks for itself, kind of. So next up, we have a destruction card, Pile On. It's an ability used by a wizard. Discard the bottom support of a highlighted stacking unit to restart that unit. I'm not a big fan of this. It would have been nice if any could use it, because now I have to play a wizard in destruction. That's not really too popular. We did see a top 4 where a destruction player was using 1 wizard. Discard the bottom support of a highlighted to restart a highlighted stacking unit to restart that unit. It's a good effect. It's a very good effect. I just don't think if this card will see competitive play if wizards become competitive. But until then, not competitive. Soul Collection, not competitive. Death for Death, very competitive. Very flavorful, too. Very, very flavorful. Soul Collection, flavorful. Pile On, flavorful. Gibbering Horror, why do we need 2 pink horrors? There's so many more cards that could have been made in Chaos. Chaos has so many units. I don't know what this is. I don't like it. I'm just going to give it an F. It's an F. I don't like it. Gibbering Horror. It's literally pink horror times 2. It's annoying. Next up, we have Thundertusk Beastriders and Weirdnob Shaman. I've only got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to start off with Weirdnob Shaman. I love the art. Heroic deck. This card this can only be used if the highlighted champion is a disengaged warrior. It has to be a warrior, and we think that wizards are going to see a little more play, so it just gets worse. Cost 6 -1. Not competitive. Flavorful. I think it's flavorful. I think it's a very flavorful card. A for flavor, A for design. Not competitive though. Thundertusk Beastriders. Discard 1 card from your hand to deal damage. You can deal 5 damage. You're using a heroic deck, all right, to nuke your opponent for 5. It turns that card into your hand till average damage. The average damage of a card is 5 damage. You're turning that card into average damage. Why do I want to play a card to turn cards in my hand to average damage? If there's a way to buff it to 6, then you can use it with that one ability or that one champion that does, you gain additional actions if you do 6 damage. But I don't see it being very good. I don't like it very much. I know some people have been saying it's insane, but it's not that good. Here's a Thundertusk Beast Rider here with my last few seconds. And it is very flavorful. Blast of Frost Wreath, blah blah blah, ice. Roll a die, 2 or more. They take 6 more wounds right here, as by this damage table. Insane. So it is very flavorful. And guys, I do want to thank you for watching. I hope you have an outstanding day. Yeah, And together we live for the Grand Alliance.